我跟你讲哈, what you're witnessing is reality TV in real time. But here, there are no actors, no scripts, and daily updates. And the best part of all, it's all free, baby. No subscription needed. But I do need you to smash that like button to help the algorithm.
Pretty please, with sugar on top.
So last episode, we thought Trump's assassination attempt might be an inside job. But on this episode, we are goddamn sure that it's an inside job. Because what the FBI director revealed in his testimony was a lot of smoking guns that makes the Secret Service look guilty as fuck.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
So today, we're going to take a very close look at it, who exactly Trump's enemies might be. And we're also going to have a look at all the conspiracy theories floating around and how some of them might actually be real conspiracies. And over the next 90 days, don't be too surprised if one of two things happen. Either somebody's going to get locked up or somebody is going to die.
Wait, yep, I got it. Go.
这么精彩，让我们继续看下去。Someone will definitely hit Donald Trump again. Check it. There are people who are so hell-bent on keeping the orange man out of the White House, they will stop at nothing. And I think the culprit will be one of two very powerful groups. The first group, the Iranians. I mean, they were trying to take Trump out anyway.
It's true.
And when the former director of the Secret Service testified, there was already evidence leaking through that the FBI director was pissed about them passing on that intel. The director of the FBI was more than eager to share what he knew with Congress. And when it came to the Iranians, he had a lot to say.
We, for some time, and I in particular for some time, have been calling out the efforts by the Iranian government to attempt to retaliate for the killing of Soleimani by going after current or former prominent U.S. officials, and we've even had an indictment against it. And I think that we need to recognize the brazenness of the Iranian regime, including right here in the United States. And I expect that we're going to see more of it, and I expect there'll be more coming on that.
Let me give you a little bit of background for those who may not know. Back in 2020, when Trump was still president, he successfully took out an Iranian major general by the name of Qasem Soleimani.
Today we remember and honor the victims of Soleimani's many atrocities, and we take comfort in knowing that his reign of terror is over. What the United States did yesterday should have been done long ago. We took action last night to stop a war.
And needless to say, the Iranians didn't take too kindly to that. So their response?
برخورد سنگین و سختی انشاءالله خود سربازان شهید سلیمانی این کار رو انجام خواهند داد.
And this would set the tone for the Iranians' elaborate plot to take out Donald Trump. And the director of the FBI spilled the beans on all of it, and then some.
So again, without reference to any specific individual, I want to be very clear about this because I've tried to be vocal on this, but it sometimes doesn't get noticed as much, which is that in my view, the Iranian government has been extremely aggressive and brazen. We have seen in the last few years an attempt to assassinate a former U.S. National Security Advisor on U.S. soil. We have seen an attempt first to kidnap and then to try to murder an American dissident / journalist who was a critic of the Iranian regime right smack in the middle of New York City. We have seen a cyber attack against a children's hospital in New England that ties back to Iran. We have seen, as I've testified before, as Director Ratcliffe and I announced, an effort by the Iranians to target the 2020 presidential election. And that's all before you even get to the fact that the Iranian government is the leading state sponsor of terrorism. So if that's not enough to convince people that Iran is a threat, I don't know what is.
Sounds like you've known that for a long time, and that information was conveyed to the Secret Service?
Any information related to threats against the former president, which again, as we've sort of talked about, is happens all too often, is something that we have a whole process we routinely share with Secret Service at a number of levels in a timely way, and to my knowledge, that has consistently been followed.
So as you can see, the Iranians have a serious hard-on for America, especially Donald Trump. But since a 20-year-old beat him to it and failed, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't try it again real soon. That is, if our next group doesn't get to them first. And like the Godfather epically said,
keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Truer words have never been spoken, because the person most likely to stab you in the back is a person standing right next to you. But in Donald Trump's case, they were standing all around him. Okay, so let's have a very basic look at the timeline so far of what we know about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and allow my good friend, the director of the FBI, to lay it all out for you.
In my mind, there's sort of three significant moments on this continuum that you're kind of getting at. There is roughly an hour before the shooting when local law enforcement observes the individual, the shooter, at that point as somebody that was a person of concern. I forgot the exact phrasing. And that was based on seeing him with this rangefinder, no observation of a weapon, but there was something odd and off about them that caught local law enforcement's attention. So that's the first moment. Then there's a second moment, which is, I think just minutes before the shooting, where local law enforcement observed him on the roof, but didn't see a weapon, is my understanding at that point. And at that point, their level of concern obviously was even higher. And then there's the third moment, which is that moment when local law enforcement saw him, the officer who climbed up with the assistance of his colleague, and saw the shooter in the prone position with the weapon, and that's seconds before the event. And so, terminology, I'm not sure, but it seems to me there's an evolution of concern over that time period.
What we also know is that the Secret Service took a picture of this fool 20 minutes before he took his shot. But here's a few things you may not know. This fool had bombs, lots of bombs.
What about the bombs that we've heard about in the shooter's car?
So again, the FBI lab is exploiting those explosive devices.
Yep.
There were, we've recovered 3 devices, 2 in his vehicle and 1 back in his residence.
Are these what you would call, your experts would call sophisticated operations, or this? I don't know. That's what I've been told by people who have some understanding of this area.
Yeah, I think it's. We've seen more sophisticated and less. I would say these are relatively, again, keyword relatively crude devices themselves, but they did have the ability to be detonated remotely. And so to that point, in addition to the 2 devices that we recovered out of his vehicle, there were receivers for those 2 explosive devices with the devices. And then on the shooter himself, when he was by law enforcement, he had a transmitter with him. Now, I do want to add one important point here, is that at the moment, it looks to us, again, ongoing review, and I can't say that too many times, at a moment, it looks like because of the on-off position on the receivers, that if he had tried to detonate those devices from the roof, it would not have worked. But that doesn't mean the explosives weren't dangerous.
So this fool had 3 bombs, 2 in the car and a detonator on him when he was on that roof. And what we don't know is how powerful they might have been. But could you imagine if this fool parked his car near the rally? Or even worse, he set it up near the route of Trump's motorcade?
Complete and total disaster.
And the only 2 things that kept him from setting them bombs off is the fact that he got shot before he could, and the other fact that he don't really know how to make a proper detonator. I wonder if the Iranians know how to make bombs and detonators.
Maybe?
And now, prepare yourself to have your mind completely blown, and most likely you're gonna throw your phone out the window in anger. This fool had visited the rally site before and during Trump's rally, and along with the gun and the bombs he had on him, he also had another very important piece of equipment.
The drone was in his car. As I said, we've been able to, by exploiting the drone, determine its use and flight paths. There were no pictures or videos on the drone of the day of the rally, for example, but we have been able to reverse engineer the flight path of the drone from the day of the rally, and that's how we know that for about 11 minutes, from I think it's around 3:50 p.m. to 4 p.m., somewhere in that range, he was flying the drone, and we have the flight path. It's about 200 yards away from where former President Trump would ultimately be speaking. And so that would have primarily given him a vantage point. I'm trying to think how to describe this. If the former president's podium is that way, the drone would be over here looking, say 200 yards again off this way, looking back. So it would have shown the shooter, we think. Again, we're still doing more work on this. I really want to qualify what I'm saying. I'm trying to be transparent and lean in here. We think it would have shown him kind of what would have been behind him.
But when you say behind him, behind the shooter?
Correct. Like in other words, almost like giving him a rear view mirror of the scene behind him, except again, he wasn't flying it overhead while he was later back for the assassination.
But he would have had, with the drone, he would have been able to also assess kind of, because the stage I assume was already set, he'd been able to assess that angle with rooftop as well, forward and backward, I assume.
Well, certainly going towards the podium. Again, we're still trying to figure out exactly what he saw, because we're having to, in effect, because there's no recording of what he saw during those 11 minutes, you know, our hypothesis at this point, the experts think he would have been live streaming it. And so we're trying to, in effect, say, okay, well, if this was the flight pattern, given these capabilities of the drone, what would you have seen? What could you have seen for those 11 minutes? And again, it wasn't over the stage or the kind of the hub of the rally. It's about 200 yards away, but it looks like it would have been looking, let's say, you know, length of a football field or so, more, you know, kind of towards the podium.
So this fool was doing recon while the whole rally was going down. And here's where things get really suspicious. You see, before the FBI responded, when the congressman initially asked him about the drones, pay close attention to what he says after.
Senator Grassley says that the records of the day show that there was a counter unmanned aerial surveillance operator on site. Was there? And why did that person not prevent crooks from being able to use a drone?
So again, questions about the Secret Service's performance are better directed to those other reviews.
So the Secret Service had a counter surveillance setup, and this dude was flying his drone 200 yards away and they didn't even notice?
Are you fucking shitting me?
And it's about to get even worse, because according to a letter written by Senator Josh Hawley, a whistleblower testified that local law enforcement actually offered the Secret Service their counterintelligence drones, and the Secret Service said,
I'm thinking, no, thanks.
But then, after Trump had already gotten and the shit had hit the fan, then they were like, do you still have those drones, bro? Do you know how important drones are in modern warfare, dude? Just ask the Ukraine.
Ukraine's use of drones has proved a vital tool in stopping the Russians.
So let's do a quick recap. The Secret Service identified this fool walking around the rally with a rangefinder in hand, looking suspicious as fuck, identified him as a threat, but did nothing. They then refused the offer for counterintelligence drones from the local law enforcement, and when the shooter was flying his drone doing surveillance 200 yards away, they didn't even notice.
And you can tell them to go themselves.
You know what? Forget everything I said in the previous episode. This ain't laziness. This ain't even incompetence. This is a goddamn setup. That brings us back to a very important question. Who is the mole? Because based on everything we know so far, it is undeniable that somebody wanted that assassination attempt to go their way. And like I said at the beginning of this video, in the next 90 days, somebody is either gonna get caught or somebody's gonna get got. But there are a few loose ends that's got the internet buzzing. Some very suspicious things and suspicious people that Twitter nerds have discovered, and the FBI director is about to shed light on all of it. So as of late, the internet has been completely ablaze with tons of conspiracy theories. And today, we're gonna focus on two of the biggest ones. The first, who is the woman in white? Soon after Trump got shot, Twitter netizens were focusing in on the woman right behind Trump, who seemed all too pleased and somewhat expectant about what was about to go down.
No, watch this shit, dude. Watch. Watch. She sits down. Yep. Watch this. Puts the sign up. She's completely normal. And then watch.
And then she's got her.
What the f? People are freaking out.
And she's filming.
And she's just like right there. She's not even freaking the fuck out.
And even I gotta admit, homegirl is sus as fuck.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
And the result, Twitter concluded that she must be a Fed. And during that hearing, one congressman briefly asked him about this matter.
Were there any FBI agents or informants present at the Trump rally in Butler?
Not to my knowledge.
Now, although the director's response was short and sweet, let me tell you something about the phrase "not to my knowledge." Because when it comes to this governmental bureaucratic speak, it can only mean one thing. I don't know about this thing you speak of, but that doesn't mean it does not exist.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
And out of all the hearings and court TV proceedings and TV shows and movies that we've seen, when it comes to the federal government, everybody knows that "not to my knowledge" implies plausible deniability. Don't tell me shit so I can deny that I know shit. And then there's a conspiracy theory of the second shooter. If we go back to that leaked footage that came out a few days ago, you can hear something very interesting on the radio.
Again, I'm just trying to detain those guys, find out what they know, who they are, whatever. I got relay back to DC.
Control of the water tower.
Where are your defeats?
We have access to a drone. I will try to control.
As you can hear, they're requesting that someone take a drone and clear the water tower that you see to the right-hand side. And you have to remember, the Secret Service denied the offer from local law enforcement to use their counterintelligence drones. So if they're asking to clear that tower now, it might be safe to say that they didn't clear it to begin with. And everybody already knows that that water tower is the highest point on the rally grounds. So if there were going to be a second shooter, he would definitely be there. And when a couple of congressmen asked the FBI director about this is what he had to say.
How many shots did the shooter fire?
We know that he fired at least 8 because we recovered 8 cartridges on the roof.
Okay, and are all the cartridges and the unspent bullets, have they been accounted for all of those?
We believe we have. Again, there's lots of work still ongoing, but yes, we believe we have accounted.
And did the recovered shells, the cartridges, match the shooter's rifle?
My recollection is yes.
Is there any evidence at all that he may have been in contact with somebody else before this occurred that may have had any prior knowledge or may have helped him plan this event?
Well, needless to say, that is a question that we're intensely focused on because that would obviously be incredibly meaningful. So far, underline, so far, we have not found any evidence of any accomplices or co-conspirators, foreign or domestic. We're doing lots of different kinds of cellular analysis, geolocation stuff, looking at his accounts. From everything we've seen, that does kind of fit with what we're seeing in his devices. You know, his list of contacts, for example, is very short, you know, compared to what you would normally see from most people. So it doesn't appear to be a whole lot of interaction between him, you know, face-to-face or digital with a lot of people. That doesn't mean there's not any, and that's why we're drilling into. We're trying to talk to anybody who's had any engagement with him whatsoever, digital, you know, in-person, classmates, coworkers.
At this point, have you developed any evidence to so suggest that there are any accomplices or cooperators or assisters?
Not at this time, but again, the investigation's ongoing.
So here's the thing. While we wait, maybe for months, the country went for years with the understanding that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation as offered by respected former intel officials. And the whole time the FBI had the laptop and then let that happen in public until finally offering testimony in a case. To the degree we wait to hear as a country and as a Congress what has happened in this event, because the FBI is conducting an investigation, it provides quarter for the U.S. Secret Service not perhaps to reckon with the problems that are obvious to everyone.
So the congressman makes a really good point. The FBI has been guilty of lying to the public before. And although the FBI director says that they haven't found an accomplice yet, there's a very strong possibility that he may be full of shit and lying. And you can be for damn sure that this series will keep going until the truth comes out.
I like to see bad people fail.
Oh, and there's one more thing. I know you guys out in the comments are passionate about your beliefs and your point of view. And when it comes to politics, y'all niggas are straight up feral. But there is something very important I really need you to remember. We are not a news channel. Although we do cover current events and news sometimes, there's a very good reason why we call ourselves Halchisa, because what we do best is talking bullshit, which is 80% of our content.
It's true.
Now, I might get some things wrong from time to time, and I might even have a take or two that you don't agree with. And that's cool. That's actually alright. You can talk shit to me in the comments all you want. I don't give a fuck. But if you guys can't respect each other and keep your shit together, I will fucking ban your asses.
That's enough. Put down the mic.
But before I ban you, I'll ask you to like, comment, subscribe to this video, and share with your friends, and maybe I'll see you on the flip side. Peace!